And once a month, I do a Q&A session. Now, the problem is it was supposed to be last week, a Q&A and I totally messed up the schedule. I was so busy working on the footstool lesson that I just dug right into the footstool lesson. So I'm just moving those around. So the footstool lesson was done last week, and then today will be Q&A, but next month we'll be on the usual schedule where the Q&A lesson is the first Tuesday of the month. So if you have questions, and I see some comments coming in from YouTube, Kat is saying she got a notification from YouTube. Yep. And David is saying hello from the artist community. I'm going to murder this. Carrie Zozo in New Mexico. Welcome, David. Glad you're here. What we're going to do today, it's kind of up in the air. It's up to you what we talk about. So be sure to include any questions that you have. You can type them and put them into the comments. I will see Facebook and YouTube comments all here on one screen, along with Zoom comments. Now, of course, for Zoom, if you're here with me, you're a member of the Rug Cooking Journey, you can raise your hand and then I can call on you and we can talk through whatever the problem is. So, does anyone have a question for me today? I thought maybe not. Okay, so think on it for me. I got a quickie little lesson. I love to make pins. And in the membership, there is a course on how to make this little primitive pin, right? This looks so cute, like on a denim jacket or a sweater or your winter coat, that kind of thing. But I always struggle with what's on the back, okay? I hate those things with you gotta flip it to get open, push the little bar in, and then turn the wheel, and then to get it undone, it's just as much grief. I think this solution really works well. And this is just like a, what would they call that? Like a tie tack kind of a thing. I don't remember what they call it actually in the Notions file um, of like Michael's or whatever. But what I like about it is you take these little clips off, you stick it, ouch, however you want it, on your clothing, and then just put the little, of course, I'm doing this backwards. Okay. And then you just put the little end pieces back on, and it's always going to be straight, right? If you are trying to pin on something that has a pin, I always gets pinned on crooked, which is not an issue if it's a round flower, but if you want it to lay a certain way on your coat or your jacket, this way works really well. I really like this. The other thing that I'm always looking for and haven't found a good source for are just pin backs that are like campaign pins. Do you know what I'm talking about? But they have this circle, and all they do is flip under. You know, they go through your clothing, and it just flips like a safety pin almost. That's a whole lot easier than those silly little ones that have to turn and you got to wrestle the little pointy part back out. Okay. Oh, David says I said it right. And he's recommending everyone hit that like button. Thank you, David. Hitting the like button and subscribing ensures that my videos get in front of more rug cookers. So if you do that, it does help me out. I really do appreciate it. Mary is asking, are you still teaching classes at your studio? If so, how many students are needed for a class? Well, it's a minimum of 4, and I don't recommend 6 is probably the sweet spot. Anything more than that can get a little congested and you're on top of each other. But if you're a group that you all know each other and you don't care if you're squeezed in like sardines, then you can go up to 8. I do have 8 chairs. So you can definitely do it that way. And that's basically get in touch with me. I haven't adjusted the prices for that yet since before COVID. So you know those prices are going to get adjusted. But just get in touch with me for what the current price is. Okay, Joyce is in Fogo Island. And Al, what is that? Newfoundland? Is that what it is? I am so ignorant. I need to study geography and make sure that I understand all the Canadian provinces. I think I got that right. Okay. What questions do you have about rug cooking? You can ask me anything. You can ask me, how do I get started? What equipment do I need? How to dye wool? How to wash wool? How to find wool? What are my favorite suppliers? Um, how to hook a bubble? How to hook a flower? Whatever you want to talk about, I'm up for it. And it'll be a really short office hours with no questions.
Cindy,
Yeah,
you said you were using the tie tack behind the flower pin. Do you glue the point part of it behind your backing?
behind the backing. And then, and
So
these really, I think they came loose from the, I didn't use probably the proper glue to glue metal to the fabric,
okay,
but because it's behind that piece of wool and that piece of wool is glued all firmly all the way around, it just basically has some give is what it amounts to. But yeah, and it
okay,
works really good. I do recommend try gluing them down. I would probably next time try something, just a little bit more intense than what I used,
okay.
which is probably just plain white glue.
All right. Because I glued the one I made, I glued before I put the wool backing on it. So that's what I figured.
Okay.
But I need to remake a new one.
Yeah. The pins are nice. You can make them for any occasion. You can make them for um uh seasonal. Um this one I just love goofy little flowers, so I made a bunch of these. You can hook them all together on a piece of backing and you can put them pretty close, right? Because you're going to be cutting the backing right at the very edge. So you can put a
Right.
bunch of these flowers all on one piece, hook them all up, and then finish them all at once. And that works out really, really good.
Yes.
Well, Mary has a sort of perennial question. Um, one that's never going to go out of style, I suppose. I'm trying to grab a setting and I just can't seem to do that. There we go. And that is, how do you choose the background color for a rug? Okay. Well, for me, it's easy. I love a brown background. If you look at the gallery on cindygayRugCooking.com, you'll see that most of my rugs have sort of a brownish purple or some kind of a darker finish. I just like that for a background. The way I teach color planning is you choose your background first, right? You choose that before you choose anything else. Then you can open up that big piece of wool and lay your colors on top of it, always seeing that background and knowing what's going on. The hardest job is when someone's completely hooked a rug and now they want to choose the background. It can be done, it can always be done, but it would possibly require some ripping out and rehooking. You can't use super dark, medium, and light all in the same rug and then choose a background because nothing's going to work. Basically, when you choose a background, like when I choose a dark brown background, I don't use dark brown anywhere else in the rug except for the background, right? So you've got to choose that first. Um, if you hook something in the center of the flowers that are the same value as what it is on the background, then it's going to appear that even though it's a different color, it could appear that there's like a hole in your flower, because our eyes register those same values, even though one's purple and one's blue. It's not going to matter. It's going to register that as the same thing, and it's going to look like we're seeing through the motif. So once you choose your background, you're basically eliminating all the wools that basically match that wool, right? Matches it in value, is the most part, and matches it in pattern. You cannot use that in the rest of your rug, and you have to choose other things. So, Mary, if you have further questions on that, let me know, but I'm going to assume right now that I've answered your question. Not sure if I did or not. Kat is asking, where do you start hooking on the rug? The negative space or the focal point? I recommend with students that you never, ever, ever, ever hook negative space, first, second, or last. You eventually will be hooking it. I guess I said that wrong. But hooking around something and leaving space for it is not the right way. You want to hook whatever it is, then hook around it. Then, if you need to, rip it out and hook it again. So I don't start with the negative space. The focal point, that depends on how difficult the person hooking the rug perceives the focal point to be. Okay, so hear me out. You have a rug. It's got this wonderful focal point, but it's got a lot of other supporting elements. Sometimes it's easier mentally to hook the supporting elements, get them done, get them out of the way, get something set up for it, and then hook the focal point. Like once you've learned how things work, then you can hook it. For instance, let me show you here we go. Let me show you a rug. Many of you have already seen it. This is my Samson versus Kitty Mom. Not the greatest picture, but it's there. It's a big rug, so it's hard to photograph. But where was I going with that? Totally lost my train of thought. The negative space of the focal point. There was a reason for telling you that on this one. Oh, for instance, when I hooked the cat, a lot of people start at the face. I found the face intimidating. I wanted to capture her expression. So what I did, I knew I wanted to see what the tail looked like because she had such a beautiful little striped tail. So I hooked that tail first, then hook the rest of her body. I learned how the wools worked, then I hooked her face. So with that said, Kat, the other option is that you tend to start in the center of the rug and then work your way out. I also tend to almost think of putting your rug down on the floor and playing, oh shoot, what was it, Twister? Wasn't that the game where you could, you put your hand on red and you put your foot on green, that kind of thing? So I move the colors around on the rug that way. So if I have yellow over here, I might go up to the upper corner and just hook a little bit of yellow in a motif that's up there, only because it records that I need yellow up there. When I'm hooking a rug, I hook it the way a painter paints. I'll do a little tiny bit of it here, a little tiny bit of it here. I'll come over here, put some in. I'll come down here and put some in. I don't hook all of anything because If I get everything kind of situated on the rug, then it's just fill in the blanks. I know where everything goes, but I'm not going to walk myself into a trap because you could work your way around a rug and not be able to resolve it without having to back up and rip out. And by hooking a little bit of each motif, I only have to rip out a little bit, right? I'm not ripping out 52 chrysanthemum petals. I'm ripping out 16. You know, I'm only ripping out a small part of it. Um, let's do that. So Denise is saying, I've picked out my values and background. Now, where do I start hooking first in a landscape? General rule of thumb is you hook what's on top first. So if you were to take your pattern and all of a sudden make it 3D, okay, make it come up off the pattern, and then you took a piece of glass, what would you touch first? So, like for instance, on a house, maybe it's the windows. On a bigger landscape, you might have to hook the tree before you hook what's behind the tree. You want to hook what's on top first, even if all you do is outline it and get it kind of roughed in on what it needs to be. That is going to be your best bet. And I do the same thing with the landscape. I hook a little bit here. I never hook like all of a pasture. I just hook a little bit to kind of record what information is there. And then I move on to something else. And I think that's why, what did I do with those? That's why I love the ring sorters, because I can put things into groups and I could label the group. So this group could be, this is the house on the hill. This one could be, this is the church. This one could be, this is a school building. You know, whatever it is that you're hooking, you can hook a little bit of it, but still document what wool you used so you don't get stuck. Any other questions? Okay, Donna, you said you had a footstool to share with us.
Yeah, I can show you what I'm going to hook.
Okay.
So I've taken the material off and kept the piece. So this, oh, I don't know that my camera, oh,
There we go. That was interesting.
oh,
I couldn't even
there we go.
spotlight her until
Oh, come on. There
now
we
you're
go.
on.
Okay. So it has the foam,
Mm-hmm.
and then, but you see this piece here, it's all screwed on. So I think I can get that off.
Well, you could get it off, or the way that one's made, because it's flush with the legs, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe just an eighth of an inch indented. You can make a
Yeah.
slip cover that'll come down over it.
Well, I kind of wondered about that too. Yeah.
That's what I would do rather than trying to upholster it.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'll do that. So I need to take it and get a new piece of foam put on it.
If you're not happy with the foam that's there, yeah. If,
Well, it's pretty old.
yeah, take it
It's
into
all
upholstery.
yellowed, and if I'm going to put all that work into it, I think I'll have them put a new piece of foam on it.
They'll often wrap it in a batting too. Depends on the upholsterer. Um,
Oh, yeah, and I don't have one up here. I had a really good one in Sarnia, but yeah, I'll have to see what I can come up with. Yeah, and maybe have him wrap it.
yeah, but
Yeah, see, I
that
can
might
see the board's
require lifting that little edge up, though.
yeah, the board's coming off now.
Oh, okay.
it must have been tacked on or something. As I say, I picked this up at Goodwill for
Okay.
song. But I thought, well, it's kind of nice wood and everything.
It is. Yeah, just clean it up, oil it up, and away you go.
Yeah. Okay. I'll get the foam fixed then. I just wanted to make sure before I went and fixed the foam that. So, so here's the piece. So I want to keep this. So for the size, right?
That's the fabric that was on the end.
Yeah, that's the fabric that was on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that can give
Okay.
you, if you want to upholster it the same way it was upholstered before, you can often use that as a pattern, but they can do things with fabric that we can't do with rug cooking. You know, they can make like
That's
little
true.
pleats and stuff like that.
Yeah,
And
I like the idea of the slip cover. I think I'm gonna go that way.
okay, yeah, it's a good easy one, and you got a low enough drop on that little ribbon that goes around the edge.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
wide enough that you could, you know, and then the edge of your rug could end anywhere in the middle of that.
yeah. Okay. I just want to say hi, Jessica. Great to see you.
Hey, girl,
Okay, thanks, Cindy.
you're welcome. Anybody else?
I just have a comment, Cindy, that last week you gave us, I think it was last week, the link to the font, the young man that did the font video.
Oh, Struthless, yeah.
It's great. It's
Is it?
great. And then he's awesome. And then he also did one about the best advice he got about drawing, which I
That's my
think
favorite
is
one.
really applicable to rug hooking or any kind of artistic endeavor. So
Well, were you part of the group? I think it was just after COVID where we did that, and I challenged everybody to draw the same thing over and over and over and over.
yep, we were supposed to draw a coffee cup every day.
And that's where his video was the inspiration for that, where he drew that little bird over and over and over and over.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, he does a lot of cool videos. Sometimes they're a little out there, but I don't know. He's just fun. And he wrote a book, something about your head is a something or other. I don't know. I bought it because I just wanted to see his drawings. I bought it on the Kindle. I bought the Kindle version.
Your head is a houseboat.
Your head is a houseboat. Thank you. I knew it was something. Yeah, it's
It's a riot.
silly.
Oh,
But
and the pictures and everything in it. Yeah.
his videos are really good, and that history of the font, where fonts came from, that I thought that was be a good introduction to our lettering lessons.
Yeah, there it is.
There you
There.
go.
It's a riot.
Mm-hmm.
It's a chaotic guide to mental clarity.
Yeah, he does a lot. It's kind of like art and mental health, kind of at the same time.
Yeah.
But the little drawings that I've been experimenting with, the neurographic stuff, to me that feels a lot like Zentangle. And you can combine the two for sure, but it's just that small, detailed, immersive kind of drawing where you're going at what you're going at, and then all of a sudden you look up and it's been 2 hours and you didn't even feel the time go by. So that can alleviate a lot of strain or just sort of reset your brain. It's amazing what art can do for us.
Yeah, the other thing I liked about it was his comment in that was about how he had been scattered. And so one day he'd do one thing, and one day he'd do another thing, and another day he'd do another thing. And by doing just one thing a day, like whatever that is, he figured out what it was he wanted to do. And I think that hooking can kind of be that way too, is that, and we've seen hookers that hook in a series. You know,
Right.
like if you hook
Well, it's like
if you hook a
you've
flower
learned
every day.
and but you've just learned all about how to hook whatever it is you're hooking. Why not hook more of it
Mm-hmm.
and just go deeper and deeper and deeper each time?
Yeah. And the other thing was, I think he was aiming for 70% good, not 100%. So I
Right.
like
Yeah.
that too, because I just finished a project today and I'm like, well, if I was doing it again, I'd do this, this, and this because, you know, I wasn't crazy about some of it, but it's done.
Right. Right. But
At
that's
least
what working in
70%.
a series is every time you make it, it's better.
Yeah.
Okay. So Kat says, she says, I live in Southern California and it's starting to heat up. I'm not sure if rug cooking is a summer craft. It's not as, how should I say, as maybe some people, I don't think people really take time off. They just hook in different places. Um, with air conditioning and that kind of thing going on, you can hook anything at any time. Um, I don't know how I can describe that. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
I think a floor stand in the summertime would be beneficial
Thank you.
rather than something on your lap because it's sort of like when you're knitting something like a sweater. If you're knitting socks, it's a lot cooler
Yeah. And
than knitting a
I've
sweater.
done on my room size rug, there has been some summers because my home is not air conditioned. We have farm air conditioning, and that is windows open at night, you shut them during the day, and you got good solid walls and the whole bit. And so it holds the coolness in. But I've been known on my room size rug, because that's a lot of stuff hanging off the back of the frame. I've put a fan underneath it, and then woo, I'm getting air conditioning from below. So that works out just fine.
I live in Florida and we've already been at 100 degrees or hotter for the last couple weeks. And,
Ooh.
we're in air conditioning. And on the really nice days, I just move it outside. But I use a stand that I sit on my lap.
Yeah. Yeah. It's important to, yeah, there's different ways of doing it. If it's on your lap, it could get really hot. I'm sorry, I'm adjusting the width of this box so you guys can see all of the comment, not just part of it. Jessica says, I think hooking is sort of like what I do with knitting and crochet. I just switched to a modular type project. So smaller projects that would work, things along that line. It's more of a summer craft than knitting. I think a lot of us still hook in the summer because we go to rug camps, but luckily or hopefully your rug camp is going to be air conditioned. I've taught in a few 20 some years ago that were not air conditioned, and that was an interesting thing. So Kat says that oops, there she says floor stand would be amazing. I'm too cheap for air conditioning. Okay, and Jessica says, I just have the smaller or modular projects between heating and AC weather. There's strategies, there's ways you can do more designing. You can, there's a lot of different ways that you can get around that.
Okay, Cindy, were you at Manistee the year that we had over 190-degree weather
Yes.
and no air conditioning in the school?
Yes. And I can tell you, I went home and had to wring out my underwear. That was the most disgusting. And it was like, if I was a student, I would have gone home. There's no way I would have sat through that. And as a teacher,
But
you
we
can't
did.
leave until the students are gone or it's the end of class time. And that one day, holy moly. And there were teachers there. I think, what was it, Victoria Ingalls, and maybe, I don't know if it was Elizabeth Black, but we had some older teachers there.
Yeah.
And man, they were troopers. I mean, I'm like, I am what, I mean, everything's dripping, my hair is drenched. That was bad. That I was just glad I wasn't sitting down, because the students had it
yeah,
worse
that's
because they
true.
were sitting down. But zero air conditioning in a church, and it had to have been 100 degrees in there. Not
Now
more.
that must have been the year at the Catholic, one of the years at the Catholic school.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you got to realize students weren't going to leave. They had paid for it.
Exactly. I think I had to wash clothes that week. I think I had to go to a laundromat and wash clothes.
Oh,
Just so everybody knows, though, it's air conditioned now.
Yes.
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 It's in a lovely facility. In case you ever want to
it sure is.
go.
Dark
It's beautiful.
days are over.
So don't be upset next week when half of your group is gone. We leave Sunday for Manistee,
Yes.
just so you know.
Yep, I'm going.
Yep, we are, Sue.
I don't see any more questions. What other questions do you have? Again, this could be anything rug cooking.
May have more when I get back from Manistee.
There you go.
You know, so I think I know. I'll just handle. I'm thinking about skinny parts of motifs. Thinking about stink bugs, right? So,
Mhm.
and I'm guessing you'd handle that like you would a letter, that you'd
If it's that
hook
big,
it.
can you
If
actually
it's not,
hook their legs, or should their legs be like wax cotton thread or wire or something along that line?
oh,
I
that's
picked up a
true.
dead one today, Sue, and I was thinking of you.
Thank you.
I did too. I was cleaning my upstairs bathroom and found one.
There's plenty of them, isn't there?
For those
Yep.
of you who might not be putting all the little pieces together, at Sauter Village, I wish I gotta learn those two ladies' names. We have two teachers who are going to be teaching about hooking bugs, and Sue and I are in the same class. So Sue's hooking stink bugs. I think I'm going to do butterflies because they're bugs too.
Yeah.
What else? Any other questions? Let me try this one. Let me get this. Oh, that's supposed to be. That won't work because that's got two of me. So someone say something. I want to test out this camera thing.
Hello.
Okay.
It flipped to me.
Except it's weird that it puts, when I'm talking, it puts up two of me. So I don't like it from that point of view. We'll go back to this one. What about do we get any? Yeah, the blue ones are Facebook. Okay, so we do have some people coming through. No, the F's are Facebook. Any questions from Facebook? There's a couple comments, not much. More from YouTube and more from Zoom. What's that one thing? I was in some coaching the other day, and the woman said that I should ask this question: what would you want to ask me if you were paying $120 an hour to work with me? You're getting me for free. So if you had to pay for it, what would you ask? What would be that thing that you would be like, I wonder?
Probably still the color planning. I've gotten pretty good about the background fabric and going that direction. So
Yeah, if you choose the background first, and part of that I think comes from my background in watercolor painting. You always kind of like you wash in the background first. So that kind of made sense to me. But I had trouble when you hook what's on top first.
Right.
You know, I was used to hooking, what's in the back come forward, depending on the medium I was using. So that gave me some stumbles in the beginning, but all I did was, okay, I don't know what color their clothes are going to be, so I'm just going to hook them in anything. Then get the background around them, and then I can always change the clothes color. So if you get stuck, a lot of times if you just pick something, hook it, get the stuff around it hooked, then you can go, oh, that's what it should be. It shouldn't be orange, it should be pink. Isn't that kind of the way it went for you the other day, Sue?
Yes. I did that with the most recent project I had. I had to change the color of this little teeny tiny person's blouse
Mm,
because it didn't show up right. Her arms just didn't show up very well. So I changed that. But I think the thing that even after hooking for 4 years, I think the thing I struggle with a lot is packing. I still am not really great at recognizing, where loops should go.
mm. Yeah, in that whole squeezing in more than what the space can handle kind of a thing. It's really just a game. You play a game with yourself, and that's another good place for the simple coasters. I think I put them away. Um, either something like this, or this is what I call the beginner square. This is what when I get a new beginner and to teach them, I give them 2.5 ounces of my scrap worms, and with that they can hook 4 3-inch squares, and this makes a wonderful little coaster. you know but if you hook it with the intention, this is what I want to learn with this project, I know I can hook that's super simple, particularly at your level of experience now, Sue. But what you can
Mhm.
do is say, in this project I will not pack. I'm going to try to move the loops as far away from each other as I can. See how far you can put them apart. And then once you get that feel for how far apart they go, then it's just a matter of just sticking the backing. You know, you do not want to develop the habit of moving the loop to see where its feet are so you can count the holes. That'll never work. That is not a good long term position. You want to learn how to be able to just put it in and pull it back up. I've got 2 questions in the chat, but Denise is here and has her hand up. So, Denise, what's your question?
I have a lot of middle values, what I call middle values, and I know they can be the dark based on what I choose, but I'm
Right.
always wanting to hook a rug. I don't want it light because it's going to show a lot of soil. Don't want it dark because I live in Florida and everything's very light and bright. It looked like a hole on my tile floor.
Hmm.
Is there a way to hook with a middle value background and use middle values in the rug at the same time?
Yes and no. In the range of values, there's not just light, medium, dark. I mean, it's a stream. Um, so let me go back to this rug. I share this with you. Okay, so this is Allie's cat, drawn by my granddaughter. And this is a very medium and kind of a gray background. Grays are the hardest color to get right. Okay. I lucked out on this. If I hadn't had other problems, I don't think I would have finished this rug, to be quite honest. I was dead set on using this background. I don't know why. And I did not have this white line going around at first. It was just this medium background with a black line and sort of medium fills on the inside. That black line really isn't enough to differentiate the actual hooking, particularly when you get into an area like this around the tail. That just doesn't work, right? Because those black lines without that white would completely disappear. So the solution for the tail was to take this background wool, which is a bunch of different beiges, and bleed it out around each hair. And it was like, well, if it looks this good here, let's just keep going. And that was the solution that made that background possible, because otherwise it would not have worked. It would not have worked. So you can do things like that. But when, if you want to do a light background, this is light, but it's by no measure white. It's light, but not white. Okay. It's a mix of textures, a bunch of different ones that you cook according to a recipe that I have. And I call it my best beige background. And it's made up of different wools depending on what I have in stock. And you just cook it, and it makes a really good background where it's still light.
Is
And then you can use all your mediums for hooking.
is that in your dye book, the best beige background?
It's a marrying process. So yeah, I think the process is under marrying.
Okay,
Or I'd be happy.
thank you.
Denise, let me send you a PDF of that recipe.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. So let's go back to these. Chantel wants to know, what's the best way to bind a rug? Okay, for me, and this is just for me, but what I like to do for binding rugs is to use the fold forward finish. It's a simple to use finish. I don't have to run out at 3 a.m. and find rug tape and all that other kind of stuff. All I need is needle and thread and some yarn. And even if I don't have yarn, I've got wool strips, and I can use wool strips to cover it. There are free instructions on my homepage or on CindyGayRugCooking.com. If you go over there and just search for finishing, you'll find the fold forward finish. Inside the membership, you want to go to the basics course, go to the fold forward. There's a PDF that you can download, and there's videos, and there's all kinds of stuff that'll show you how to do that. That, I think, is the easiest way. And it gives it a nice finish. It lays flat on the floor. It's the finish I used on my room size rug. So there's a lot of good reasons for using it. How are the quartz countertops holding up to dyeing if you have them by now? I don't. I had to wait until our island was built. I was just looking to see if I had my cell phone handy. Because my kitchen's a disaster. But I can show you a picture of what my son built, because he did an absolutely awesome job. Oh, and clouds are really good this week, so I took a lot of cloud pictures because there's going to be a lesson coming up on clouds. I did way too many clouds. What's nice about digital is you can just keep plugging away and then sort them out later, right? Let's go to all photos. I think I have way too many cloud pictures. I think, oh, that one doesn't have jars in it. I thought I took it. Here we go. So this is the island, and we couldn't use anything stock because it had to be small, because the kitchen's not very big at all. So this is the most, it's got a 15-inch deep wall cupboard. And then my son built the shelving for the mason jars. So now I've got something to measure, something to get the new countertops. But Kim has had the quartz countertops now for several years, and there is no staining. You try to stain that, and you can't. I mean, we took samples of that and just dribbled thick dye onto it and let it set for a week and then rinse it off. There's nothing there. So they are holding up. That is the right kind of counter to get if you are a dyer. April is saying, I still can't turn to make horizontal lines without the last loops looking wonky or twisting the wool underneath. Think a square primitive house. Okay. So if you hook lines that go back and forth, I don't recommend stopping and starting at each end, because now you have an ugly tail at each end, and then you have a row of ugly tails at each end. So I think that's what April's coming into play, where she turns and she goes back the other direction. It's more of a mind thing than it is a hooking thing. So let me switch you to this camera. Get rid of my notes. And what happens is that you're hooking this direction and you're doing loops, 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 loops. And now you want to come over here and hook the next one on this side. Well, what's important is that you keep all your hands underneath going the same direction. Then you pick it up and start doing it this way. If you try to hook it like this and then hook the first one going this way, that's when you get the big bump. But if you hook it by going sideways, you're going in the same direction. You're just moving over and going that way. You only do one loop, then you flip and come back the other side. Now, the biggest problem I heard with that, I'm not sure why the color is so funky. Look at that. It's really funky. But you got the idea in the drawing. The only issue with that is that when you come back the second line, you're going to be hooking on the wrong side of the wool. So now if you're panicking because you are thinking, I didn't know there were two sides to the wool, it's okay. Don't worry about it. If it's not important to you up to this point, don't worry about it. What happens in today's hooking is we like as much variety as we can. So flipping it over to the back side to come the rest of the way is not an issue. But back in the day, in this, probably early 70s, that would be frowned on because someone, I don't know who, would look at your rug and know that you hooked with the wrong side of the wool. Now, whenever someone has said that to me and I ask them to show me an example, they have to get like nose to nose with the rug. I guess I look at it, if I'm standing up and looking down and I can't see the difference, then it doesn't matter. So that's the way it goes. So April, give that a chance, give that a whirl and see if, that kind of hooking where you come up and you hook that second one going the same way. I don't have the frame set up with the camera on it, or I'd show it to you on the frame. But I'll do that at the next beginner session. I will include this lesson in the next beginner session. Uh-oh, what does the dog got? Okay. He's okay. He's legal. Any other questions? What else? Can you guys hear those noises? My dog has got a little container that had Taco Bell's Pinos and cheese left over from my lunch yesterday, and I gave it to him this morning, and he just now discovered it. So now he's chasing the container all over. It'll be just a few minutes before he starts ripping it up. Okay, so I think we're going to end there. I don't see any more questions coming in. Thank you for being here. If you're not a member of the Rug Cooking Journey and you got to watch this video, this is kind of what the weekly sessions are like. You never know. I never know what questions are going to be answered. And we do open questions and answers usually on the first Tuesday of the month. We're doing it on the second Tuesday of the month because I messed up last week, but all's good and we'll get there, right? So thanks, everybody. I really
Bye.
appreciate it.
Hi, thank you, Cindy. Bye,
Bye,
everybody.
Cindy.
See you later.
Thanks.
Good to see you, Jessica.